everyone, Andre Seguin speaking, your teacher on the ILP. This video is going to be about writing an essay. When you write an essay, you define one idea. Basically, you say, that idea is true and I'm going to prove it to you. That idea you say is true, I will refer to it as the main idea. And the set of ideas that constitutes the proof are the secondary ideas. So you have one main idea, the idea you claim is true, and you have a set of secondary ideas that show your main idea is true. The set of secondary ideas is your argument. Your main idea is what we could call the thesis, but I prefer to go with the terminology main idea, secondary ideas. First thing, in the introduction, I want you to identify the main idea, okay? With precision. Okay, I insist. If it's not precise enough, I'll tell you all the time. It's because the coherence of the text is the way in which the secondary ideas prove your main idea is true. So as the sooner you state what your main idea is, the more coherent your whole paper appears to be and is. This is what I want you to have the main idea identified in the introduction. And when I say I want it to be identified precisely, here's the difference between two ways you could do it. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that our main idea is Andre would be a good addition to our football team. Here at the unit, we have a football team. Andre would be a good addition to this team. That's your main idea, okay? In the introduction, there are two ways you could do it. The first one would say, in this paper, I'll see if Andre could be a good addition to our unit's football team. The second option is, in this paper, I'll show you Andre could be, or should be, or whatever, a good addition to our football team. In the first one, you're just asking a question. In the second one, you say what your main idea is. And this is the second option I want you to do, always. So when you'll do the paper on ethics in your introduction, don't say, I'll analyze this situation in light of its moral value. Tell me if it is right or wrong. In the introduction, you say, this situation was wrong, I'll prove it to you. This situation was right, I'll prove it to you. That's what I want. I want you to be explicit. And that brings me to the Forrest Gump principle. One of the two principles I want you guys to apply throughout the course when you write something. The first one is the Forrest Gump principle. The second one is the $1 Million Baby principle. The Forrest Gump principle is quite simple. If you remember the movie Forrest Gump, his mother, Mama Gump, always explains things so that Forrest Gump understands them. That's what I want you to do. I want you to be explicit. Never keep something in mind, in your head. Take it out, put it on the paper, because nobody's in your head. You're alone in your head. And you want make sure that things are obvious. So don't say, this is obvious. Don't write it down. Make things obvious. Always explain things out. You introduce a concept, for instance, define the concept, what it means. The person you're writing to may not know what it means. And or worse, have a different understanding than yours. By defining a concept, everybody understands, and everybody understands the same thing. Everyone is on par, and that's what you want. You want things to be explicit and have very, very, very little to no room for personal interpretation on your reader's side. Okay? That's what we want. That's the Forrest Gump principle. The $1 Million Baby principle is also quite simple. Always defend yourself. Always protect yourself. So what does it mean? When you say something that could be true and that could be false, or it could be false, always have a proof that it is true. Okay? You cannot claim something without a proof. So you cannot claim Andre would be a good addition to our unit's football team without proving it. without developing an argument showing that it is true. The same is if you, it can also be the case for simple statements. If you say the Canadian military were the best trained during World War One, okay, there were a lot of military involved in the First World War. There was German, there were Austrian, Italians, French, English, Americans, Australians, New Zealanders, etc. You're saying the Canadians were the best trained in all these groups? I want to prove that. You cannot say that freely because it could be false. And if it could be false, you must say why it is right, what it is true. This is $1 million baby principle, okay? And we apply this principle by developing a proof that your main idea is true, okay? Now, I said that your argument is constituted by the set of secondary ideas. Now we must see what a secondary idea is. All your secondary ideas will be based on facts. We don't want opinion. We don't want opinions. We want facts. But facts by themselves don't say anything more than what they actually say. Let's see. You want to say that I would be a good addition to your football team because I'm a tall guy. Okay? The fact that I'm tall must be proven. Because someone could say, saying he's not tall at all. He's a small guy. What are you saying he's tall? So you need to prove that I'm tall. You're gonna base that judgment on facts. So you'll say, André Seguin is 6.5 feet tall. Being 6.5 feet tall doesn't mean anything more than I'm 6.5 feet tall. Okay? So you must give a meaning to the fact that I'm 6.5 feet tall so that this fact proves that I'm tall. So you must have a certain interpretation of a fact that gives the meaning you want it to have. Okay? That's what you do when you develop a secondary idea. So what you're going to do, you're going to have a groundwork. You must have some, like a ground, like a basement on which you can build your assessment, okay? Like the foundation of a house. That's what you need to have. So, for instance, here you want to say that I'm tall, and you have a fact. I'm 6.5 feet tall. That's what you've got. So you'll say, as a basement, we could say that somebody is tall because he's taller than the average guy by at least 4 inches. André is 6.5 feet tall and the average guy is 5.8 feet tall. So André exceeds the 4 inches margin, which is at 6.2 because he's 6.5. So we can say he's tall. That's it. Now, let's say, for instance, you want to say George applies the value of courage for ethics, for instance. You'll define what courage is. And then take what he did, the action, and compare his action to the definition. So the action, say, making a tough choice. And George, so that defines courage. And George reported Jim's, the fact that Jim stole material, public property, from the workshop to put it on his car. He stole brakes and put it on his own personal car for his personal gain. George has been friend with Jim for the last 25 years and still he reported Jim. That's not making the easy choice. That's clearly the tough one that he made because it was his friend and he still reported him because it was the right thing to do. And that is there exactly what the definition of courage says to do, asks you to do. So George applied the principle, the value of courage. Okay, so you have your basement and you have your the meaning of the fact in light of that basement. So this is the little mechanic you must do in your secondary idea. Having a basement, having a fact, and taking it's tough for me to pronounce that word correctly in English. Interpreting, that's the best you're gonna have, the fact in light of the basement of the ground you gave yourself, and now showing your idea is true. So you said your secondary idea was George behaved with courage. Courage is such and such. George did such and such. And that such and such is exactly what courage tells you to do. So George acted with courage. There's a final step you need to do. How does it prove that your main idea is right? It's true. Never forget, your secondary ideas are not end into themselves. They're means towards another end. And that other end is showing that your main idea is true. Okay? So there's still that job that needs to be done. So, for instance, Henri Estal, once we've done that, you still have to say something about that so that you show that your main idea is true. Your main idea is Henri would be a good addition to our football team. Now you must come up with a reason saying something like, it's important to be tall at football because you must receive passes. So there will be cornerback trying to prevent you from catching the ball, and the ball will be arriving to you. Being tall helps. So Henri is a good addition to our football team because he's tall. That's it. Your main idea was what George did was in line with the Canadian Defense Ethics Program. Courage is a value of the Defense Ethics Program. He complied with. His actions were thus ethical. But you need to say it. Why? Because of the Forrest Gump principle. Your reader is not in your head. You must do the job for him. And this is why you need to tell him the reason why your secondary idea proves that your main idea is true. Okay? So I hope this helps. Just recap. In your secondary ideas, always 4 components. I always want those 4 components. What is that basement, that groundwork on which you're gonna build the assessment that will give the meaning you want to the facts? What is the fact? Second component. What does that fact mean regarding that ground? Third. The fourth one, why does it prove you're right, that your main idea is true? I want that. Always those 4 components. In conclusion, obviously, you are, how could I put it? You can always be outflanked, okay? One can raise objections against the ground you chose. For instance, why is being 4 inches above average tall? Someone could fight you on this, for sure, but that's normal. That's the intellectual life, okay? Having discussions. But still, with such an argument, you must be fought using those rules in that ring. It cannot be just, oh, he's wrong, I disagree with him. Okay, you disagree with me, why? What is wrong with my argument, with my proof? Point something that is wrong and tell me why. And now you have a discussion going. And that discussion could also be very fruitful for you and for your opponent, I would say. So that's it for that video. I hope it helps. Once again, if you have questions, don't hesitate. I'll be glad to help. Good day.